Hey, welcome everybody to the Therapists Deserve Abundance podcast. We are going live today, yet again, for a new and epic episode. We are streaming in multiple places today. We got Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I am super excited because whoever is here live and or later, right? Because we do definitely upload this to our podcast as well. We have a phenomenal guest today. And so he is one of my great friends. He is in our mental health world. His name is Dr. Jeff Rocker, and he is known as the celebrity therapist. Okay. So it's actually an awesome time of year for him to be coming on the podcast today because he is celebrating also his first Father's Day. So super excited to talk about this topic. It's very rare for some of you who know to have men of color in the mental health field and doing work in the community as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring him on the screen. Make sure that you show him some love. We're going to pull up how you can contact him. Make sure you show him some love over on Instagram and let him know how you're going to appreciate this podcast episode. So welcome, Jeff.
Hey TK, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm living the dream, living the dream.
So let's go ahead and jump into it. Usually, how I welcome our new visitors on the podcast is letting us know a little bit about you. What's your license type, and where are you located and licensed?
Okay, so I'm licensed in quite a few states around the country. So let's start off where I'm physically based at, which is Florida. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, New York, DC, Texas, Georgia, of course, California, my second home, California. You know, I love it. Nevada and Arizona.
Nice. Oh my gosh. We're gonna come back to that because we are in such a good era, I would say before 2020, that before then therapists, it was very difficult for them to get licensed in multiple states, let alone stay licensed. And so to us in the mental health field, that definitely was one of the blessings of being able to make a bigger impact while also tapping into other states. And so we're definitely going to come back to that. So your title, celebrity therapist. Can you let our viewers and listeners know what does that mean? What is celebrity?
I'm glad you asked that question because I get asked that all the time, of course. So celebrity therapy is about me working with a certain population, and I always say we all celebrities in our own right, but more so people who are in the public eye more often than not, whether it be CEOs, professionals, of course, and of course people in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. So I asked because I know it's on your Instagram. So I'm like, I'm sure he got questions about what that is. So let's go all the way back and then we'll come back to like current date, how you and I had met as well, being providers. And so what made you take the leap and go into the mental health field?
Well, I grew up in the great city of Miami, Florida. I love my city, 305 Dade County, all the way alive. You already know. But sometimes in the great city of Miami, sometimes it's not so great moments. And with the parts where I grew up, which is North Miami Beach, I have peers who are, doing drugs, who are, dealing with domestic violence. They were going through so much things and they had nobody to talk to. As a matter of fact, the people that they had to talk to didn't look like them. I think someone said the other day that back then, the only person you could talk to was someone who looked like Dr. Phil. And unfortunately, the people that I served would never go to the Dr. Phil like therapist, unfortunately. I think Dr. Phil is a good therapist, but at the end of the day, people have their preference.
Right.
So for me, I thought, what better way to get back to my community by, giving them a way to have a therapist who would look like them, talk like them, who they could relate to, and also serve them to all their needs that they need, of course. So that's what made me think about, of course, being a therapist. But what really made me jump into it is that one day, of course, out by the way, growing in the city, played basketball, had dreams like most inner city kids of going to the NBA. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the NBA, but that's all right. I'll try again in my next life. In my next life, yes, please praise God. So while in high school, I was getting good grades, and up until I started to hang out with the wrong friends, and because of that, I used to start skipping classes. My grades started to drop. And then one day I get a call from my coach say, "Oh, Jeff, come to the office." I was like, "What do you want to come to the office for?" I was like, "Oh boy, what did I do now?" And he set me to the side and said, "You know what? Sorry to let you know, but I cut you from the team." And when he told me that, my heart dropped because basketball was my life. I love it. I like I said, I had plans of going to the NBA, and now he ripped that out of my heart. So I was like, oh no, what's going on? So of course, like anybody, went to a little depressive state, but I didn't realize it was a depressive state. So I wasn't eating. I lost a lot of weight. Back then I was shredded. But after that, now, woo, I was looking like I was looking pretty bad. And also while going through this stuff, I had Haitian parents. Like in my culture, we're not known to talk about mental health. We don't necessarily know what mental health looks like. We're more willing to go to some of a witch doctor rather than a professional mental health counselor.
Right.
So because of that, I had to struggle a little bit up until my guidance counselor, like, you know what, you may need to get professional help because you're not eating, you're losing weight, of course, and you're not doing you're going to classes no more. So after that, I was like, you know what,
Yeah.
I see the need because if she never told me to go seek some help, I would never have done that on my own. And I realized that's because that there's no during that time frame, it's hard to trust people who don't look like you,
Facts.
and it is. So I got the help, got better, and that's you know what. Let me go to college for this, which is psychology and everything else, and that's how I got to where I'm at today.
Oh, wow. And then I know you had a recent milestone in the last year and a half where you went back and got your doctorate degree.
Yes. So let me go right back to. So I went to.
Okay, I'm like, tell us.
Yes. So I went to the great Bethune-Cookman University, the great HBCU, all day to get my bachelor's degree in psychology, and then I decided to go to Nova Southeastern twice for my master's and my doctorate. And I got my doctorate in marriage and family therapy, so, which is a long process in itself.
I know. Well, I asked about the doctorate because I see, a lot of times in our community, because I coach the therapist for private practice, and then also just in other, I'm gonna say therapist communities on like Facebook and stuff, is that some people have their master's degree and then they're at a crossroads where they'll ask other people, why did you go back and get your doctorate? And so can you share for anyone who will watch this later or listen to it on the podcast, if they're trying to decide that they already have a master's, should they go back and get their doctorate? Can you share why you did it?
If I could do it all over again, would I still do this? I think so.
Like, no, wait a minute.
Listen, of course, we know it's not needed, but I definitely recommend you guys to go for it because at the end of the day, we don't see enough Black young doctors. So to have that on your resume, believe me when I tell you, it separates you from everybody else. And that's the end goal, right? Because if you're trying to get paid, you're trying to get recognized, you got to do things that separate you from everybody else. It's not just a therapeutic approach, but you want to put, your degrees, your credentials, and everything else too.
Yeah.
Is it a long process? Yes, it is, but definitely worth it. Trust me.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you even brought up the statistics because I think that that's something that clearly is not talked about enough. And I'm going to introduce like how we met because the statistics were very real in terms of looking at Black mental health providers or providers of color with how many are out there, but then also how we're still underrepresented in our field. So for those of you who don't know, Jeff and I have sat on the advisory board for the Boris L. Hinton Foundation since 2019. I think, it was like before, anybody, so 2019. And then we were part of, I'm gonna say the first, crew behind the scenes to go to the wonderful first annual, what was it, like a 3-day conference?
It was 3-day conference.
3-day conference. Mm-hmm. That was by far, outside of all the other affiliations that I'm a part of, I was like, can they do this again? It just sucks that the next year, this thing can't. But just to give y'all an idea of the level of impact, it's like, I don't know if y'all know what it feels like to walk into a physical space and see nothing but Black or of Black, because I know everybody has a different cultural background, right? But Black group of all mental health providers mixed in with some celebrities, right, that support mental health, right? But then you have Black psychiatrists. You have the head person of APA that's Black.
Mm-hmm.
You have the owner and the executive director of the Hinton Foundation that's Black. Then you have all these people who are hosting CE workshops, and like me and Jeff hosted our own workshop.
Yeah.
Which I'll let you tell them what you do as well on that side, right? We hosted our own workshop based off our specialty, but it was just awesome to like be in a space with 500 plus Black people, and there was no beef, there was no competition. It was nothing
all love.
Right. So can you talk about the segment? Because I know that you do that as well in Florida. What was your specialty like when you did your workshop at that event?
So my specialty, which is very different and untraditional, but I love it so much, is something called a hip hop therapy, where I talk kids, of course, about mental health through the use of hip hop, because we realize when you bring up mental health, kids they have no idea what it is, what it looks like, what the symptoms are, and of course, coping skills to deal with it. But if you put music attached to it, they can recite every word to every song. So I decided, combine the two, meet them where they at, and teach them about mental health, and they love it, where they can recite it back, and of course teach other people within their own community. So I do it now since 2018, and even now, and people love it. The kids adore it, and it's been going good so far. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to work with you collaboratively, like to bring that into their school or into their agency or maybe even church, how would they contact you?
Actually, they can go to my website, howweseit.org.
Okay, howweseit.org. Okay, so we'll make sure to link that in the bio for everybody, because I know that we're in an era where people are very more receiving of mental health services, and we're always looking for ways to like reach the youth, especially youth of color, because the youth are struggling right now considering the impact of social media, things that are happening in the news and schools. And so I think that is also a good resource for teachers to see how they can better communicate with different kids, because not all kids know how to express themselves. And I can say firsthand, y'all, it was fun, right? It was me, and I think I want to think my friend went to that one.
Listen, it was
It was fire. We had to rap.
We was rapping, dancing, singing. I mean, we felt it in our soul.
Yeah. It was definitely fun. So we'll definitely make sure that we link up. It's your nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he's a jack of all trades, y'all. So we're definitely going to link up his link for the nonprofit, so that if you're watching live or a lot of people listen to the podcast, because therapists, we like to just have people in our ear like all the time, then we'll make sure to give you that information. So I know that, a lot of people are interested in, I'm going to say, Black mental health for men, because that's a topic also that is definitely underrepresented. So I do want to talk about that. For any man of color, I'm going to say man of color because we have so many different cultures, is if they were looking to seek mental health, how would they know that mental health is safe for them? Because that comes up a lot with the men that eventually I even have gotten in my private practice. Like, is it safe?
For men, we're very skeptical about a lot of things, and mental health is one of those things, unfortunately. But I think that having professionals like myself and you as well, just people in the Black culture, being in the public eye, talking about mental health, where people are like, I could trust this person. This person can relate to my experiences. I think that goes a long way, particularly for men, because we're taught to be strong, we're taught to be, figure things out on the run, but we're never taught to actually process emotions, process these experiences. No one ever told us that it was okay to do so, up until now, or at least more recently, to say, you know what, it's time to talk about these things, and it's okay to talk to a professional, because you're not crazy. Actually, you're normal, because we all have issues that we got to deal with.
Right. Yeah, I've had my share of men, and it's interesting because most of the men that all of them, all of the men that I've received that are men of color, Black, in my practice, they have either been brought in for two different reasons, unfortunately. And it's been either ultimatum from their mates.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, now listen, we need both parties on a consent form. I ain't doing the whole boxing ring situation. And or maybe they come in originally for, relationship stuff, but then clearly after doing a thorough intake, I will help them recognize that they probably need one-on-one because they're dealing with baggage, even though they may say, no, it's a family thing. No, it's an individual thing. And the individual thing is impacting the family thing. So let's clear that baggage first. And so how receptive I'm going to say even young Black men, because these young Black men turn into men, right?
Yeah.
When they do get into the therapy process, just because some of them often wonder, what does it look like? What does it look like with therapy with you, for example, when they come in?
Well, what they're going to get is someone who's honest, very direct, because I'm going to tell you like it is. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat, because, you need to hear the truth. But someone who is definitely going to relate to you in many different ways, whether it be through music, whether through sports, video games. I mean, I like to meet my clients where they at, because I want them to feel comfortable as much as possible. Because, to throw out techniques and theories, they don't want to hear all that stuff right there. You got to know how to connect with your clients.
Right. No, I think that that's very key, and understanding how you can work with people well. And like cultural diversity is a big piece of working with anyone. We're not going to just say that's just for people of color and Black
Yep.
people. But at the end of the day, that we know that there are clearly certain cultures that honestly were never even given the privilege to even think that mental health was an option. So, some of the things that even I become aware of with my sons is like watching my language, because again, they will become men. So like watching how I may want to say sometimes, walk it off, but that's what I was told as a
Mhm.
girl, let alone a boy, you know. And if we keep, I'm gonna say, unconsciously dropping that information to kids, especially boys, that it's not okay to talk, it's not okay to cry, it's not okay to express your emotions. What kind of man do you think they're going to be in a relationship,
Mm.
marriage? And now we got these women that have all these expectations because they were told nothing but to express themselves. So now we have like a whole opposite attract
Yeah.
communication problem, right?
Which is why
So
divorce rates are so high, unfortunately.
you said what happened?
Which is why divorce rates are so high.
Yeah, we ain't even getting into that. That's a
No,
whole
okay.
different topic.
We touch that today. That'd be another.
Yeah. So let's take it a layer deeper. So let's just say a male contacts you for therapy,
Mhm.
right? What are some, or what have you seen? Because I can share as well, but like, what are some presenting problems outside of relationship problems that maybe men should be coming to therapy for, but they don't, or they don't call?
To be, what I see that's very often common is that men feel like they have the whole world on their shoulders, whether it be
Mhm.
from their spouse, whether it be from their parents, from family and friends, and of course the employers. So they have a lot of responsibility, whether it be internal or external, but they feel like they don't have the opportunity to express themselves because nobody wants to hear them express themselves. No one
Oh.
has to say it's okay to deal with these issues. No, they said, no, you can't deal with that. You need to perform. And not only you have to perform, but you have to perform at the highest level, which is why I gravitated with celebrities because they do it all the time in the public eye. You're
Mhm.
not allowed to, whether it be Naomi Saki or LeBron James or Kevin Love. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. People outside looking in, you think they have everything going on for themselves, but they don't. They have their own issues, and you have to allow them to fix their own issues in their own time. Because if not, you fall into the other celebrities who, unfortunately, are not with us, like a Michael Jackson, a Whitney Houston, a Robin Williams, a Heath Ledger. I mean, the list goes on. Celebrities who have gone through, or just people in general who are still going through things, who are not getting the help that they need.
Mhm. Well, you said a couple of things that are interest to me, and one of them kind of dipped into like the celebrity world and the fact that their whole life is public.
Yes.
Unless there's few of them that actually will not, but it's probably because a family member has taken the limelight, right? And so when you have someone who is in the public eye all the time, that can also be a barrier because they don't even probably want anyone to know that either there is a problem that they've identified as a problem, and then let alone going to go see a therapist. Because let's be all the way real, most of the TV shows and things like that, they only depict, it doesn't mean that it's not helpful, but they really only depict a small portion of the session. And unfortunately, they also really show people getting therapy when they already too deep in, like super traumatized, or
Mm.
they messing up the show. you know and so that's of interest to me. And then also just looking at Black men just honestly not um potentially thinking that they need to go talk to somebody. Like trauma comes to mind a lot.
Mm.
I'm not going to say all Black men, but if you grew up in certain neighborhoods,
Mm,
it was
yeah.
about, whether you wanted to think about it like this or not, you probably suppressed it. Right, is that you've been exposed to some form of trauma, even if it happened in your home.
Yeah, just the other day, I mean, because I work with kids as well, with the hip hop therapy classes, I asked the kids, I mean, has anybody seen anybody get shot before? And half the room raised their hand.
Oh
I
well.
was like, wow, for them, they're like, oh, that's a normal day in Miami, but not realizing these are traumatic experiences that they've been going through and not been dealing with. They haven't been addressed, that they haven't been processed. And these
Yeah.
are the things that these young kids go through, and best believe when they become adults, it definitely plays a role into their relationships and how they interact with people in general.
hmm Is that like, if you, because I know sometimes when we work with certain populations, we see more of one presentation of a diagnosis than others. Are there certain diagnoses for boys and for men that you see more than others?
Oh, that's a good question. I always I said Anxiety is the one that comes to mind more so than anything. Like I said about the pressures, to be the leader of a household, you're taught that as a young boy. So as a young boy, you feel that responsibility that you have to go through as a young boy, and then one day be a young man. So you start to do things, which is, like I said, being an inner city young boy, trying to make that quick money. And unfortunately, that quick money looks like selling dope, or looking to be an athlete. So these are the two the two career paths for a lot of inner city young boys, but not realizing there's so much more out there for them to make some good amount of money.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about just what our current where our current world is in
Yeah.
terms of what traditions used to be as a just man, not even just a black man, right? What it used to look like, maybe what our parents, grandparents, or great grandparents, and how the times have changed with, I'm going to say, women getting educated. I mean, we really want to talk statistics because this, to me, this does impact and what can bring about a black man's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say black and brown because that's the population that I mainly serve. And so what I found is that when working with the men, when I can get them alone, without the woman, there, what I find is that there's a lot of, but it takes a while for them to bring it up. There's a lot of competition that is not intentional. There's a lot of bruised ego that was not intentional. And it stems from, at least just saying from the men that I've worked with, because maybe they don't have a doctorate degree like you do. They don't even have a college degree, but their wife, their partner, Black women killed the game in 2020 with opening businesses and having a master's degree and higher. So it's just interesting to look at like our grandparents or like my grandparents and where they were with education, having high school maximum, if that. And then the man being traditional, woman taking care of the kids. And now it's completely flipped. How do you adjust to that when that's not even how you were raised? You don't even know what to do.
This is why it's so important to show, this century of guys, just that you could do more, right? There is such thing as a black doctor. So representation matters so much within the black community because, I know for me growing up, I never knew of a black doctor. I kid you not. That was just nothing I was seeing within my local neighborhood up until I started to move, of course, go to college and get my master's and doctorate. But that was something unheard of. I would see a whole bunch of NBA players, NFL, dope dealers. I've seen that, garbage man, but these other career paths. But a doctor or a therapist, oh my gosh, it's unheard of. As a matter of fact, 5 years ago, it took about 5 years ago for mom to accept my career path that I'm in. Because for her, she saw as being a doctor in psych as something like, what is that, right? Because we don't believe in that. What is that? What is that?
Yes.
And I you know what? It's my mom. I love her, but I understand it's culturally, she realized that she didn't realize that things have changed so much because culturally back home, which is for her in Haiti, there's no such thing as doctors in psych. If you're a doctor, you're an MD. That's it.
Like psychiatrist. That's what you are.
That's it. But not realize there's so many degree paths you could take to be a doctor in. So she didn't realize it up until now. She's like, you know what? I'm glad you took that path, but you do a pretty good job in it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's interesting even that we have to, like, psychology is not a easy.
It's not
thing to explain to people. Of course, understand it, yeah, but let alone explain it to someone. Like, I mean, my energy. They all know my energy. And so it was just always interesting that when I would tell my family what I was going to school for, as I started like going into the master's and the doctoral program, because they were like, "Why are you still going? I don't. All you're doing is being a counselor. You're just talking to people." And I said, "No," And so I one day decided to explain to my mother and my grandfather what I was doing. And my grandfather, super old school, deceased now, but was from Arkansas. Like, so he said, "I just can't see you being serious." Because all they see is me. I mean, I'm serious with school, but they can't see me being serious when I interact with people because I'm fun. But I'm like, but I'm also not in that element. But who I am also makes me better at what I do, especially with who I've chosen to work with.
And you know what? You bring up a very good point, which is I preach all the time, is that you have to allow people to see who you really are. And this is how you get your clients as well. Because nobody wants to see just the degrees and credentials and call it a day. They want to get to know you because half the battle in therapy is building rapport. So if I can't connect with you, I can't relate to you, I already lost you.
Right. That is so true. So I know that like we have two different audiences. Usually I say this in the beginning, but we have two different audiences that listen to or watch the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We have clearly therapists, and then we have general public, right? So for the therapists, I mean, they've heard about your journey with school, but one of the areas that we talk about is business, having your own private practice, venturing out into other gifts that you have. And so we're going to talk about two. Can you share with them why you chose to open up your own mental health side of like a business? Because I know you got a whole nother side. But what made you like go into your own business for mental health?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Hey, well,
You know, I wanted to find a way to make a huge impact within the community, but while also find a way to make money. You know, 'cause I think those two normally in conversations don't go together. Mental health, making money, nah, there's something wrong with this picture. This don't make no sense.
say
So
that again, right?
right. You feel me? So for me, that's why I took the approach of working with celebrities because during my path of finding who I'm trying to be, which is right now, I used to model, I used to act, I'm a musician. Of course, I play sports, and I decided all those things that I'm passionate about. How about I bring that within my therapy sessions or in the population that I work with, which is what led me to work with celebrities.
Mhm.
So it's not just celebrities where you can make money, but it's anything that you're passionate about. What I encourage everybody to do is find a creative way to be different from everybody else. And believe me, it can be done. I'm a living proof of that. What I'm doing is very different from anybody else, you know, and I'm sure you could come up with something different as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really boils down, if we're talking business, to branding.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was sharing in a YouTube live last night is that because I was doing like a YouTube live just explaining like how I got to where I am, because they look at, you know, some of them are very attracted when I post out money. And I know that I shared that when I posted in one of these Facebook groups, man, I got chewed out because I was coming from the manifestation universal part. And I definitely believe that therapists should make a good living. I do not think they should be on the bottom of the totem pole because we are essential providers as well. And clearly that wasn't highlighted until the pandemic, unfortunately, but now it's great.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, what I was sharing is you got to go with what makes you happy,
Yeah.
what your gift is. And if you're aligned with, when you find it, your purpose, money will follow. And when I say that from time to time on social media platforms, I tend to, just like I'm gonna say 1% of the people who are like watching the post, I will get a little low key chewed out without profanity words. At least that's how I receive it. And I'm like, you know, you really don't understand the messaging. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that don't focus on money, but if that's your only focus, what you're living for is money, and that is not a purpose. That is a thing.
But you can't do both at the same time.
Oh no, hands down, you can do both.
Mhm.
But I hope that you're making money while doing what you love. Otherwise, it's going to lead to burnout. And
Mhm.
therapists also saw that firsthand after 2020. Because if you pay close attention to like our little therapist circles, they're saying they're burnt out as of, what was it, summer 2021. That's when I really started to hear it. But I saw it a lot again in January. And now we're middle year. I hear it again. And I'm like, y'all not taking time off. Why? Because y'all make enough money. You know what I'm saying? Like, go make more money instead of taking mental health days off when you're having a panic attack and actually make a good living so that you can live well. Because like, what are some of the things that you've been able to do as a result of choosing to be successful with your gift? Like, you travel, what you do for fun?
Whew, what is fun these days, right? No, actually, I will say this. I have to be fair with myself. And my job is pretty interesting in itself. So I do have fun doing, you know, providing therapy, but also meeting the clients that I do meet for therapy too, which includes traveling, branding, marketing. You know, every day, I would say I spend about 15 hours a week just doing therapy. The rest of the time is me marketing and branding myself. And when I tell you that, that's a very important aspect in regards to business wise. You need to learn how to brand yourself and do it well and invest in yourself, because a lot of people don't like to spend, like, don't invest in their money into themselves. I don't know why not, but you should, because if you try to make money, and I mean good money, because I'm sure nobody wants to live paycheck to paycheck. I know I don't, and I'll never will. I used to be it before, but I never go back to those days. You gotta invest in yourself.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something like the branding and investing yourself is a very big deal. And people listen to this who are not even a therapist. So whether you're a potential client or just general public on GP, okay, is that if you provide services to the community or to people, you are a personal brand, whether you like it or not. Like what Jeff is talking about is that he is a personal brand, because he is part of his brand requires his face and or his voice and or both, which means that he has to invest in things that, sometimes we don't want to deem as important, not just colors on your social media feed, right? Because that ain't even all the way important, you know what I'm saying, as long as your messaging is on point. But like your health, taking time off, spending time with your family, enjoying relationships, like all of those things make you a happier person, in which now people can see that also, Jeff, you living out your brand. Like you are your own celebrity. Like, look at your shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I can see it. Oh, wait, I am a pop star and a Black doctor.
Yeah, no, let the people know in the back. Let people know in the back.
Listen, you got to be your own pop star first before you be somebody else's. Right? So now let me introduce, or I want you to introduce, like, what else do you do outside of mental health? Because I also want to, like, I'm gonna say for younger people too that are going to school for psychology, don't just think that you gotta be stuck in like a room with white walls and that is your life, and because it looks unattractive. And that's why I think a lot of kids don't even consider psychology, because what is it? TV makes it either look dramatic or boring. It's like there's no middle. So what do you do that is in addition to mental health?
So I also have a management company called Rocket Management, where I manage, of course, athletes, entertainers, even clinicians within the field to help them promote and brand themselves. Because once again, branding is important. And I realize not everybody, it doesn't come as easy as it is for me, for everybody else. So I definitely have to help people in that area.
And how did you choose that? Because that also, when I'm thinking about the therapists in our program, they're in fear sometimes of stepping out and tapping into other gifts that they have. And so they just don't. And so what made you say, I'm going to do it? Because I know that you probably had this going on, but then I started seeing it last year, and I, like, my husband saw it and he was like, okay, I see you. We're going to have to come to Miami again and have a party.
Honestly, I want to get paid. I'm not going to lie to you. For me, I was like, listen, I realized doing this is going to put money in my pockets, put food on the table for my family. So I got to do more for myself and for my business too. It's more than just giving back, which I love, by the way. It makes me very happy to give back. But I got to find creative ways. Once again, you got to be creative. You got to be different to make yourself so people can pay you for your service that you deserve. Because being like everybody else, believe me, you get paid like the average therapist, which, as you said, statistically, on the average, we're at the bottom of the barrel statistically. That's the average therapist. But if you're very different in your approach, believe me, you can make some good money within this field.
Right.
She can she could contest with that too. Believe me, watch her page. She'll let you know how much money you can make. She'll let you know.
But look, so this is like my mindset around it, right? Because everybody knows, like, clearly my background, I like nice things. Like, that is not a secret, right? But I think it is, I mean, if we're talking like all the way real, my community know I'm super transparent, is that from the outside looking in, people can assume two different views of me, right? If they don't spend time with me. And I think the same thing can happen with you, because if they go to your page, they will only see primarily your title and one theme in terms of a thing, right? And so I'm just telling people, make sure that you get to know a person, because Instagram only shows like 1% of the true person, unless somebody just wants to gossip about their whole life. So for example, I have a background full of, luxury items, right? But how I see making money for anyone is that, like, Jeff has a nonprofit. He can make more money so that if one day he says, you know what, we got money for this program, people are investing in us to give back to the community, but I got a cool $500,000 over here. You know what? I want to go ahead and this year, let's get like 5 kids some laptops. Let's like he can do that, because he can choose the way he wants to spend his overflow of blessings, because he's operating in his gift. So I really just I like to say stuff like that over and over again, because people will see, oh, he's a celebrity therapist. Like, I feel like that's how they be saying it. At least it's in my head, right? Like, oh, he's a celebrity therapist. Oh, he's taking all these pictures with celebrity. Who do you think he is, walking on the tarmac, getting on the plane? Like, I'm being real, because every time I look at like your stuff, I'm like, I hope that really people see the impact that he is making, honestly, to even get your freaking foot in the door to be alongside of these people, because these people need help too. Just because they got a title and they're on TV and they got money, don't mean that they're cool behind closed doors. And if they wanted to talk, they could, because they trust you.
Yeah.
because you've put yourself out there and they know that you're authentic. Like, this is just not who you are because you're on a picture with them. This is, well, I know you. So this is who you are. So I'm
And
just saying, like, oh, judge a book by its cover.
and I also want to say that just to let people know, working with celebrities, they're a vulnerable population as well. So people think that just because they have the fame, the limelight, the money, they think that life should be great. They go through a lot of issues that, unfortunately, they have to solve it in the public. Where we see where everybody else has the benefit to do it behind closed doors, they don't have that same luxury.
Right. That's good. That's actually a very, very good point. Because sometimes we take advantage of being able to close the door. Some of them, even though they chose it, but they didn't make, some people don't think all the way through like 20 years. Like, they just go day by day, especially the young ones. Like, I just want my fame today, But when you start raising a family in the public eye, everything there's no secrets.
No.
And in therapy there is, but they have to be willing to trust you that you can keep their secrets.
Yeah.
Because I know a few people who want to tap in. I think I sent one of my clients to you, like, just see who he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's not easy at all to tap into any specific industry because you have to show up and be consistent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anything else that you want to share with our viewers? I know that we've talked about the importance of Black mental health. We've talked about men's mental health and what that can look like if they go, but also what may be preventing them. We kind of spoke to the ladies unintentionally by saying, we don't want y'all to just be dragging these men to therapy. Yeah. That's what you said that I didn't go back to. Give men a voice.
Yes.
But a lot of men don't feel like they have one. And I just want to add this piece, and I don't know if you've seen this before with kids. Mm-hmm. My dissertation was parental involvement with Black kids in therapy. Mm-hmm. And I chose that dissertation topic because the Black parents were not involved in the kids that I was seeing. So I'm like, I might as well make it my project. And so when I was doing my project and my research, parents still, they started getting on board because I was applying what I had learned and what I had read. But I turned that into a business and I started doing workshops on my dissertation. And I remember a Caucasian man stood up because it was a very diverse population in the Bay Area in California. And he said, I noticed that throughout your presentation, you kept saying her, she, mom. I didn't even know I was saying this because we don't even know how trained we are, right? To say certain things. And I didn't know where he was going, but I was receptive, not defensive, right? And he said, I wonder why you do that. And I said, well, tell me more because I want to rectify it too. I want to solve the problem. And he said, I noticed that you didn't say he. And my response was, I think that because of my experience of being a clinician, but it doesn't make it right of what I did. So I'm very happy that you said that because that actually changed my whole presentation going forward. So take feedback, number one. But secondly, as he pointed out, I'm a father. And to be honest, I've been through this process of like one of his kids going to therapy, but he's a therapist. Mm-hmm. And he said that it bothers me that I hear more often than not that when the therapist wants to talk to a parent or a guardian, they always go to the mother. Or they always ask the kid who you want to talk to, and the kids by default end up saying mom because maybe moms appear more caring. I don't know what it is emotionally or safer, right? Like daddy to be like, what? And so, but by default, what happens is a therapist never even extends an invitation to the father. And in turn, then write and say the father's not involved.
Which is very common. They're like, oh, the father is somewhere over there. But I go to the mom, she gonna get things done.
Right. It's mixed, but I just want to highlight that, especially for therapists and for fathers who are listening, because more and more kids are actually becoming more even receptive to going to therapy. We got programs like Jeff's that go potentially into program schools, organizations, but also we got school counselors. And just make sure that we're being aware and ethical to make sure that we're tapping into the kids' other providers. Because a lot of kids have very close relationships with fathers, and Black fathers are involved in their kids' lives. Parents are actually still together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what the old
years. Yes.
So make sure that we're extending the invitation to both parents or caregivers because we don't know who kids live with, but don't leave Black men out because to me, that just perpetuates the problem of like, I don't want to see a therapist because they don't even want to call me for my kid, let alone me.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, I know Angela, some people said hello, right? So Angela said, hey, right? She said that at the very beginning. So like I said, we're streaming live on various platforms. For those of you who prefer to listen to it on the podcast, we typically upload these podcasts about 1 week out. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I thank Dr. Jeff for taking out his schedule of also being a new dad.
Of
Um,
course.
and coming and showing some love. And so we're going to make sure to link up. I'm going to go back into YouTube and link up his nonprofit. We have his Instagram already there. Check out anything that he has in terms of on his Instagram, but also show him some love. My biggest thing is show love
Yeah.
because he is a very rare commodity on this podcast. I think we're the second Black male. I'm like, second Black male
Damn
on.
shame. That's a damn shame. We gotta change that. We gotta.
Well, I mean, we got to start with the kids. They got to know it's okay to also want to talk to other people, which means that we have to help them work on themselves first.
Yes.
Right. So I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast today. I definitely enjoyed bringing on a guest. Hopefully we can have him back for some other like fun type topics, talking about what's for management. You feel me?
Yeah.
Talk
about what's the next one.
Right. We gotta get to Miami though. Like, real talk. We need to talk after this. We'll wrap up and stay on. But I'm like, we need to make it to Miami. All right, everybody. Have a great and prosperous and abundant weekend. Bye.
All right, take care, everybody.